Hello there, my name is Nick Moe, and I'd like to ask you a question. What is your favorite type of video game? Perhaps you're a fan of action-adventure games, or maybe turn-based RPGs are more your style. Perhaps you play competitive games exclusively. Everyone is different, and everyone has their own answer, but I have a feeling that very few of you answered the question with sports games. Yes, sports games. Despite being some of the best-selling, most mainstream video games in existence, those who identify as gamers and play games regularly seem to ignore sports games, and for good reason. Games like FIFA, Madden, and NBA 2K change very little year to year, and if you don't care about actual sports, there's very little reason for you to care about virtual sports. However, I recently played a game that changed my outlook on sports games, and I believe it has a chance at changing yours. That game would be Pyre from Supergiant Games. You may know them from their previous titles, Bastion and Transistor. Pyre, despite its high fantasy setting and otherworldly atmosphere, is 100% a sports game, complete with teams, strategies, and rosters. I know it seems odd at first glance, but Pyre is the best sports game I've played in years, and here's why. Pyre is set in a dark and mysterious place known as the Downside, where groups of outcasts compete against one another in the Rites, a ritual in which two teams engage in battle in order to prove themselves worthy of redemption, because the victors of the Rites have a chance to return to the Commonwealth, or the world above the Downside. In gameplay terms, the Rites play similar to hockey or basketball. Two teams of three fight for control of the orb, with the intent of delivering the orb to the enemy's pyre, or goal. The catch is, only one team member can move at a time, and each team member has different stats like move speed and power. You'll quickly find yourself drawing up plays and creating defensive strategies. Pyre as a sport feels good to play because it's not bound to the rules of a real-world sport. You see, today the most popular sports games are all simulations. Just look at what EA does with FIFA and Madden. These are photorealistic simulations of real-world sports. Now, there's nothing wrong with making a simulation sports game. After all, this is what sports fans are asking for, more realism. But the more a game focuses on realism, the easier it is for the core gameplay to become complex and unintuitive. It wasn't always this way. Game hardware used to be unable to create lifelike simulations of sports, and so sports games used to be a bit more simple. For example, here's NFL Blitz, which by design was an arcade experience, not a simulation. But Blitz proves that football can translate well to a video game without the need of complex controls and systems. Another fan favorite is NBA Jam, which reduced basketball to its most crowd-pleasing aspects. There are no rosters to manage, no complex timers to worry about, just impossible dunks and ridiculous three-pointers. However, if I had to pin down a single sports game and compare it to Pyre, I would have to go with the original NES Ice Hockey from 1988. In NES Ice Hockey, you create your roster before hitting the ice, and you have one of three players to choose from: small and fast, big and slow, or a medium all-arounder. The game itself feels closer to a tabletop game like foosball or bubble hockey than it does a simulation like EA's recent NHL games. It's simple. One button passes the puck and the other button shoots. You're constantly in control of the goalie whether you realize it or not, and it still plays well, even today. The beauty of its design is in its simplicity, and I see a lot of this in Pyre. Like NES Ice Hockey, in Pyre you get to select your players before each round. Some are small but nimble, and others are large and imposing but slow. Again, much like Ice Hockey, the game is 3-on-3 with two buttons handling almost everything. In order to score, you can try to get a breakaway and run the orb directly to the enemy Pyre. Or you could try and shoot the orb from across the field for a long-distance goal. Or, my personal favorite, you could pass the orb to your opponent, allowing you to attack them and knock them out of the game temporarily, giving you a free shot at the goal. Much like the classic sports titles I've just mentioned, the core gameplay of Pyre is simple in nature but deep in its strategy and difficulty. You see, gameplay is what makes a good sports game. In fact, for most sports games, gameplay is literally everything, but that's not the case with Pyre. What sets Pyre apart is its story, a story with a dark and mysterious setting, brimming with interesting characters and a plot full of twists and turns. Now that's not to say other sports games don't have any story to them, though Pyre is certainly not a Spike Lee joint. Although both Pyre and 2K17 make good use of ghosts. It's just in most sports games you simulate game after game and never feel a connection to the players on the field. But in Pyre, the opposite is true. You're the leader of a team known as the Nightwings, and over the course of your playthrough, you'll become attached to your teammates and despise those you play against. You'll feel cheated when a teammate abandons you moments before a game, forcing you to change your strategy last minute, and you will grow concerned when you believe a teammate is in trouble or is hiding something from you. This is perhaps my favorite part of the whole experience. Unlike every sports game I've ever played, in Pyre, I found myself determined to win the next game, not only because I enjoyed the sport, but because I desperately wanted to know what would happen next to my teammates. I wanted to see the story through. I wanted to take my team to the championship, or to succeed in the Rites. This feeling, this connection to my team and a desire to win is why I believe Pyre is a great example of the sports game genre. It may dip its toes into visual novel and RPG territory, but at the end of the day, Pyre is about competition and pushing your team forward. And to me, that is the definition of any good sport.
Oh my! He's on fire!